Welcome back to Popcorn Lore, guys. Episode
Hey,
9.
Episode 9.
Crazy.
We're all the way up to
yeah.
9. And we didn't get canceled yet by
I
CBS.
know. Even with your your Back to the Future speech about sensitivity and everything.
It's true. I was talking.
We're fighting the
I
good
didn't
fight.
do it on purpose, but I guess I was talking about wokeness. Now we're gonna get canceled.
Oh, now
No, I was looking
on the
forward.
cusp of our last episode.
I know, I was looking forward to episode 10 too.
How's everybody been?
Good, good.
Cool. So
Winter's coming.
yeah, or it's here, I should say.
Yeah, I wish I was in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I wish we were in Hong Kong.
Looks pretty
Well,
warm in Hong Kong.
we got just the right episode for you in that
This
case.
movie's about Hong Kong.
Yeah, what are the
I
chances?
totally didn't do it on purpose.
Cue the music!
Cue the music. And we're back.
Yeah.
It always goes so quick.
Okay, so actually we didn't even say what movie we were going to talk about before we get into the music.
Well, it's a movie about Hong Kong,
It's a movie about Hong Kong.
so they could guess.
Okay, so this week's episode is on Chungking Express, a movie or a film that I chose, which is also on my list of top 10 movies in my personal list for me. So was this your first time watching this film?
No, I saw it when it came out
Oh,
on
wow.
VHS though. Like I don't even think it was in cinemas here.
Okay.
I must have seen it in 96, 97 or around there. And this is my second time watching it this weekend.
And what about you, Aaron?
Yeah, so for me, it was my first time watching Chungking Express. I had
Okay.
seen, I believe I'd seen some other movies or similar movies anyways from the same director. Like I know I've seen In the Mood for Love, which I know gets at least compared to this movie, but this was my first time watching it.
Okay, great. And what was your reaction to it as a first time
I,
watching
lo-
it?
I had a honestly, I enjoyed it a lot. It just like it was a really interesting movie. The way it was shot was really, really different. I've been to Hong Kong before, so seeing some of the like places that they were kind of sparked some memories. It was a long time ago too. It was over close to 20 years ago. So honestly, I really enjoyed the film.
You know, I was thinking about that. Funny enough, I was saying to myself, the films that we watched, it's rare that like I can discuss it with people who have been there.
Yeah,
And both of you have both been to Hong Kong, and I've been as well. So it's
Yeah.
like it's pretty cool, like in that regard, like it's not every day that you like.
It's true. We all three of us live in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
How
yeah.
long have you been?
How long ago was it?
How
Just
long?
before the I think it was 2018.
And for how long? How many weeks?
Just 1 week.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was there in 2003 or 2004
Wow.
for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Uh,
Okay.
I think I was there in 2006, and I was there for almost 3 weeks.
Wow, 3 weeks.
Yeah, yeah,
Hong
it was
Kong is
great.
it's a bit of a hectic place, as you can
It's
see on the
very,
film.
very busy, which and the vibe of the movie it captures that for sure.
For sure. So I'm a helpless lover of romantic films. This is why I really like this movie. Just before we dive into it, it was released in 1994. So obviously, we've covered this before in our first episode, actually, with Natural Born Killers, which was released in the same year. But probably historically, probably one of the best years for cinema, I'd say, in modern cinema. You have movies again like Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump, Natural Born Killers, Leon. The list goes on, including this movie. So what a year in 1994. I think we spoke about it in the first episode, but it's just really amazing. Every time I go back to that list for 1994, that year.
Although I'm not sure if this was released here in '94.
That's a good question. I'm not sure exactly the release, but I know it was released in that year.
Because in YouTube, when I saw it on YouTube, it's in '96. So I'm not sure
maybe that's a Western release.
Maybe
it does look like that. It was released
Western release, yeah.
Yeah, 1996, March 15th so obviously it took them some time to and it gained a little bit of a following from my understanding too, so that's probably why when it gained some traction that they probably released some dubbed version or some subtitled version here in 1996.
Right, so did you guys want to talk about that year, or I think we kind of covered that in the first episode, but yeah, it's just amazing to see
like you said,
amount of movies like that have had an impact. Okay, so just diving into it now. I mean, the movie is directed by the director Wong Kar-wai, and we're very diverse on this podcast, so I'm gonna just say that if I mispronounce that, that's bad, but we're going to take the diversity. So Wong Kar-wai is the director of Chungking Express. How I got to see this film actually is it's because of Quentin Tarantino, because his company called Rolling Thunder is the one who released it to the West. And at that time, I was kind of diving more into film, and how I got to know about the movie is because he had a special when this was released on his production company called Rolling Thunder. And he spoke about this film, and he spoke about Wong Kar-wai and how he had like a unique lens in Hong Kong cinema. Because prior to that point, my introduction to Hong Kong cinema, and I'm sure it's the same for you, Aaron, and for you, Tony, it was like through the lens of, Jackie Chan or Jet Li or Bruce Lee, like very much more martial arts orientated, the action kind of cinema. And up until that point, the only director that I knew that was like from Hong Kong was John Woo, and that was because he did Mission Impossible 2. So that was my only kind of introduction to anybody or anything Hong Kong cinema related. But Wong Kar-wai in this film, it's a very different style. He's actually criticized a lot of the times in the East of having like more of like a Western lens, even though I feel that the nature of the film and the content has a very much more Eastern philosophy and kind of what he kind of portrays. But yeah, just going off of that, what did you think about the style of the film?
Well, for me, I definitely remember the first time. I don't remember much about the first time. I just remember what feelings I had the first time I saw it, and it was very much like a art house film that tried to trigger different emotions and out of the box and these type of things. And then the second time I saw it, I was trying to figure out why I liked it the first time, in the sense that what was it that I liked about it, and then I think I like it for different reasons now that I did back then. Because back then, it's kind of in the sense that the early '90s style was like Quentin Tarantino and these type of out of the box movies, and you just automatically found them cool and you liked them just because they were different.
Yeah.
And now it's like I changed a little bit in that sense, and I just try to find what's a normal way of liking it. So now I like it for different reasons, mainly the way they show Hong Kong, the romantic element of how people meet and fall in love,
right?
And third of all, how it was in the '90s, in the mid '90s. The way to communicate and the way to meet people.
Yeah.
And specifically, like now, it's like you meet someone, and
it's more romantic.
Like now, you meet someone at a party, or you meet someone somewhere.
Yeah.
And you already have them on Facebook, or you already have them on Tinder.
Yeah.
You already have them.
Yeah.
But back then, like if you didn't have a pen and paper handy, you'll never see that person
Yeah,
again.
for sure. For sure, yeah.
It's so important to have a pencil and a paper. Otherwise, you'll never see your love again.
You know that what like before we dive completely into the film, but one of
I don't know. I don't know if I want to talk about that right now, but I
Yeah.
was just saying those are the themes that affected me.
Okay, just to piggyback off what you said, like because one of my favorite scenes in this whole film, it's when Takeshi Kanashiro's character, because he's going through like his heart being broken and whatever, and he finally gives up. He leaves a pager on like the baseball fence
Fields or whatever, yeah.
and like he walks away, and like you're like, okay, he's made his decision. And as soon as the pager starts beeping, he turns around, right? And he's like, should I go back? Should I not? And he just runs towards the pager, right? So it was just to show you that like if you don't like that was a time.
Or sometimes if you wanna meet that person again, and you go far away to another country,
good luck.
You have to come back to Hong Kong to that shop and look for them in that shop. There's no other way.
And that's what happens in the movie. For sure,
That's what I really enjoyed about that aspect. I really enjoyed it because that's how it was back then. Like in the early 90s, you kind of had to like go where they work, go visit their house, pen and paper,
hide in their cupboards.
Yeah, pen and paper and keys and letters
and and what about you, Aaron?
Yeah, so the vibe of the film is pretty neat. Like obviously he does a lot of like interesting like camera work. So that I found really cool. A lot of like the Asian comedy, like Hong Kong comedy, I find really funny. So like the scene where he's like talking to all the stuff in his apartment, and he's like, like you're like, the thing's like too wet or whatever. He's like, why are you crying? Like those types of things. I thought that was just hilarious. But yeah, like the other thing that the movie invoked for me is there's a lot of loneliness in the film. There's tons of it, and I think that's part of the times, like you were saying, like if you don't get the perfect scenario or you don't get the right opportunity, like you just legitimately might miss out on that person that you fell in love with or whatever the case may be. So those were kind of the vibes that I got from the film. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm just gonna dive in, I guess, into the lore. I guess that's a good introduction to that. So this film actually, when Wong Kar-wai was filming this film, he was actually working on another movie, which he was kind of pouring his all into, which is called Ashes of Time, which was released just a year after this movie, or actually around the same time as this movie. And he kind of got into a drought emotionally. He kind of was like, he just wanted a break, So what better way to take a break than to film another movie in 30 days?
This was filmed in 30 days?
So this was filmed like on the flash. Like he just decided to do this. And I find that love for cinema and his passion really comes out in this movie. And I find that like, it's like almost like an artist kind of like rekindling his love for like what he likes to do and create. I don't know if you can really get that sense out of this film. I find when you watch it in that way. I mean, knowing that
I didn't know it was something in 30 days, but I have sort of a thing that I have with movies. Is I just do it naturally. I don't force myself to do it, but it just happens naturally. I always look for ad libs and improvisations.
Right.
And I saw a couple of scenes which were like that.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when the woman, she was mad and then she wanted to throw her purse, but then a paper came out and then she picked it up and she kind of threw it and it was kind of all random. And I'm sure that was all improvised.
Right.
Like it wasn't supposed to go that way. And a couple of other scenes too, where like they drop something and then they just go with it.
Yeah.
Like this is not a movie from Stanley Kubrick that has 70 takes, 70 takes per scene. I guarantee that. It was more like 7 or 3.
So something I read was that, yeah, exactly. Something I read was that the director would like write the scenes like the night before or like the morning of like that they were shooting. So
Yeah, he
it's
actually didn't finish the script until like while they were filming.
that's wild.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah.
one of the interesting things about this movie is that yeah, so just going back to Wild Car Away. So he was filming Ashes Fine. This is like epic film, and then he just kind of got into like I wouldn't say like writer's block, but I guess that would be the equivalent for a director, and he just kind of wanted to be remotivated, and so he did this film. And this film is unique in the sense that actually originally it was three stories. This film, very much like Pulp Fiction, how Quentin Tarantino imagined that movie, but he decided to cut it into two stories. And the transition between the two stories, if you guys haven't seen this, I've never seen that in a movie where like you kind of start off with like these two characters and you're kind of like what's going on, and then it just in the middle of the movie it's just like the transition just happens and you're in another story altogether, but it's still the same world. You still feel that you're still in the same place because of all these things that have tied them together, the diner and all that stuff happening.
I don't know for certain, but there's one scene where I'm pretty sure it was following I think the criminal, the criminal lady,
Okay, yes.
and but then it was the girl that you saw, like her name's Faye Wong in real life, but
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure there's one thing where she buys like a teddy bear or something like that. Like I'm pretty sure I saw her
It's
in the
crazy
background.
that you just mentioned that because I've watched this movie for like so many years, and the other
Yeah,
night I like watched it and I had to tell the person like I paused it and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even notice that you actually get introduced to her in that scene. Like because
exactly.
she's buying the Garfield teddy
Yeah,
bear.
yeah.
And it was cool. Like that, it just shows you also in your life, like, the people that you meet randomly in the street or whatever, they're going through another story. Like you have your story as a person, right? It's just like they just cross paths, but like there was so much like like they
Going
know the
on.
same person, like the same people, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
and that happens a lot more in like crowded cities like Hong Kong.
For sure, yeah.
Here, I don't know.
And since you both visited Hong Kong, like when I visited Hong Kong, I had already seen this film, so I wanted to visit. And for those who don't know, like Chungking Express, it's because there's this place in Hong Kong is called Chungking Palace or Chungking Mansions, I think they're called. And it's known to have like a lot of sketchy activity, a lot of like foreigners that are there, a lot of
Interesting.
like weird stuff that's happening. And when I visited there, I had a friend that was living in Guangzhou, and he was dating at the time he was dating a girl from Hong Kong. And when I went there, and she's like, "What would you like to do?" I was like, "I would love to visit Chungking Mansions," and she was like, "Hell no, I'm not going there." And I was like, "We're definitely going now." So like we went, and like I just visited like the first level because she was like freaked out. She didn't want to be there and whatever. And then actually you know him there, actually, Aaron. It's Sean, right? Sean
Okay.
told me that like you could rent a room in Chungking Mansion and there's no windows, and that's like very, very sketchy stuff that happens there. And
Wow.
it's like so anyways, you get a sense of that in the first, especially in the first half of this movie, right? You get like
Definitely
when the actress's name, by the way, is Bridget Lin, very, very famous actress in Hong Kong. And when she's doing those deals with like, I believe they're like either Pakistani or Indian, I'm not really
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And that ties in with the music as well in this film. There's themes for each kind of like character or for each place. So, for example, the cafe has the reggae music, or is a theme for that character with the blonde wig. You have the Indian music for when they're in that part of the Chungking Mansion. You have obviously California Dreaming for Faye.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice that one. It was so subtle.
It was so subtle, yeah. So, and going back onto what Quentin Tarantino was saying about the Chungking movie, he said in that promotional like piece that he was saying like, if you're a guy and you don't fall in love with Faye's character, like there's something wrong with you. And it's so true. Like you just like the way she is, like taking care of like the cop and whatever, like it's just like you just I don't know, you just like she's an on-screen character, but like you just like fall for her, you know what I mean? It's like one of those like I don't know. I guess that's what guys felt like in the 40s or 50s for like some of these like on-screen starlets or whatever. But it's
Yeah.
she does it in a way that's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's very captivating in that
I
regard. But
I
yeah,
read that that actress actually was a super successful musician.
Fei Wong, yes, she's a very successful musician.
Yeah.
This was her first feature film, and she does a cover of actually, you know, the song in the movie. It's Dreams by the Cranberries, but it's done by
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
in Cantonese.
Yes, yes.
That's actually Faye singing. That's
Oh,
her.
Oh
really?
wow,
Yes,
that's cool.
and that's became a huge hit in Hong Kong actually, and it actually drove in more interest into that kind of music in Hong Kong.
That's so
Was this
cool.
was this movie popular in Hong Kong?
It was popular in Hong Kong. Yeah, this
Okay.
is what you know made Wong Kar Wai, I would say, internationally known. Uh, was this movie? So a couple of things about this movie that maybe I'm sure you guys noticed, but um, there's almost an impressionistic element to this film, the way it's shot, particularly in certain scenes. Like I don't know if you guys remember when I think well, we never really get his name, but he's like cop 663 or whatever his name is. When he's kind of looking out the mirror after he's like trying to dry the letter that Faye left him, and the water is just like coming over the window. What happens is that it gives you that effect of like an impressionistic painting. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, and it
Hmm.
happens many times in the movie where even like when they're doing the chase scene in the Chungking Mansions and the camera's kind of like shaky and all these kind of colors are kind of
Yeah.
coming out, very vivid colors, and it's almost as if it's trying to emulate impressionistic painting.
Wow.
I don't know if you guys noticed that, but yeah, in retrospect, if you look at it like that, you can kind of see that kind of
Yeah, that makes
influence.
sense now that you mention it, but I definitely didn't catch that the first time I saw it.
Yeah.
There's also this scene where he's inserting the quarter in the jukebox, and he's going in super slow motion, and in the background everything's going really fast.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that's also impressionistic. That's probably not it.
That's just his style, I guess. But it's more those scenes of like with the water
Yeah,
and
yeah.
kind of like making it look like an impressionistic
Yeah, the
painting.
fish tank. It happens with the fish tank too.
Fish tank too, yeah. And so yeah, so have you guys ever seen a movie like that where like the transition of the stories are just like it just happens. Like you're just like now you're in like another
Well,
story.
it's rare to see movies with two stories
Right, yeah.
or three.
On the drop of a hat, like it's crazy.
Yeah.
I never experienced, and I remember that feeling when I first saw the movie. I was like, this is wild. Like I've never seen anything like that, you know. But it still grips your attention.
I just watched a movie very recently. I, I don't, it's like Where the Wilds End or Where the Woods End. I forget. It was a Ryan Gosling film. And
Okay.
funny enough, it's exactly like that. It has three acts essentially. Like this movie, I'd say it has like kind of two acts, right? It's got the first
Yeah.
part, and then it's got the second part. So I watched another movie, funny enough, just like that with Ryan Gosling. I wish I could remember the name here.
Interesting.
You said The
It's
Pines or
called
something like that?
yes, exactly.
Oh yeah,
The
that
Place
movie.
Beyond the
Yeah.
Pines. So the
Oh
first
yeah.
act is about Ryan Gosling. The second act is about Bradley Cooper, and
Interesting.
the third act is about
Don't spoil. I don't want to. I want to watch it. I haven't still haven't watched
it's
it.
a great movie, and
Yeah,
if you
I
hadn't
heard
seen a
that.
movie like that before, you're
I
gonna
love that
really
movie.
enjoy this. It's
I remember
really good.
you
I
spoke
watched
to
it
me about it, Johnny.
recently.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that movie. I really liked it.
yeah, check it out.
Um, Nice. Well, just heading back to Chungking Express really fast. So the beginning act, obviously, it follows the woman in with the wig, which is Bridget Lin's character, mysterious character who's kind of like up to no good, let's say, in the Chungking Mansions. And then you have a cop who's portrayed actually by Takeshi Kaneshiro, who's like a very famous Hong Kong actor, who's half Japanese as well. That's why when he speaks on the phone, that's actually he. That's why he's speaking Japanese
Yeah,
when he's at the diner or whatever. And
that
so
caught me off
he's
guard so much when that happened.
yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
because
sure.
my brain automatically clicked into Japanese because I speak a little bit, and I was like, wait, what's going on?
Right, yeah. So he recently has gone through a major breakup, and then he kind of comes across like this character. What I find interesting about this film is the first guy, how he handles the breakup, and the second guy, how he handles his breakup. It's very two different thing,
Yeah,
different ways, right?
definitely.
The first guy is like so kind of desperate. He needs this person. He needs this person in his life. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. And the second guy is very much very stoic. He doesn't want to like it's over, it's over, you know, like the girl gave him the letter. He doesn't want to read the letter. And in turn, that makes him like more attractive to well, that makes him more attractive to Faye, right?
Yeah.
Who's the girl who's working at the restaurant. And the first guy is like, even though he doesn't have a love story with the girl in the wig, he kind of does because she later messages him like
Yeah,
happy birthday or whatever.
Yeah.
yeah.
So that means like
And he said he
yeah,
fell in love with her.
yeah. Well, he could fall in
Uh,
love with anything that passes him
Yeah.
his way, right?
He fell in
He's
love
in
with
love with being
pineapple.
in love. Exactly. And the second guy is like more stoic,
Cold.
more cold, more like, you know, but he's but don't get
He
it.
accepts the breakup.
He accepts it, but he's definitely as affected as the first guy. He
Yeah,
just
but
hides
he's
it
kind of
better.
like poetic about it. He talks to his furniture
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
So here's a little twist for you guys, actually. There's a theory about this film in that the flight attendant was actually Faye the whole time. So
Oh,
I'll give you hints about
interesting.
that. So example, like, so it's just time retrospective. Like when he's saying, "Oh, she used to hide in this closet. She used to be there. She's," and if you notice, Faye's there, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's
that
not a
was weird
coincidence. Yeah.
because I thought he was talking about his ex-girlfriend, right?
Which you're supposed to be led to believe is so, but it's actually his ex-girlfriend is actually Faye. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
So if you go back actually and like you and it like if you think about it, like it's true, yeah, you do see a girl at first because what happens is that in the second half of the movie, if you notice, like all the restaurant workers and whatever, they always leave and like make sure that she's alone with him and stuff like that. So it's almost as if
Right.
he set this up. He's kind of set up this situation to kind of get with Faye, you know what I mean? And so who knows? Maybe that person that she first met at first was just kind of like a hired kind of gun. And what leads to that theory also is when he's with that girl, I mean, there's like an intimate scene when he's with her. It's a really weird intimate scene. It's almost as if she's almost hired to be like intimate with him because he's trying to
Interesting.
forget about his ex girlfriend. And so the theory is basically because why it would be weird, like you've seen this because when he finally catches Faye in his apartment, it's kind of like pushed to the side, right? You kind of don't like hear about it
Yeah, yeah.
anymore. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like the theory is basically that she became a flight attendant, messing around at his apartment with whatever
Yeah.
planes he had or whatever, like whatever. And then all the scenes where you see him talking about the flight attendant and missing, it's actually about her. And then that's why, you know, she's in the places that he was saying she would hide in. She does, you know what I mean?
The
Wow.
things that he said
Yeah.
his ex-girlfriend would do. He
Exactly.
doesn't give her he gives her the address to the apartment, but he never gives her the key, right?
No, she took the
She
key
took
from
the key from the letter.
from the envelope.
Oh,
Yeah, from
okay.
the letter.
There was a key in there from the envelope from his ex, and she took that key and did her deeds.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
must have missed that part.
And it's just like small little things that are really funny that I like those stairs for those escalators, for example. Uh I when I went to Hong Kong, I visited them and it's like it's so unique that whole spot. By the way, that apartment that he's in was actually the cinematographer's apartment and they used it. He's a Western cinematographer that Wong Kar-wai kind of befriended and is friends with, and they used his apartment to do all those scenes. And then when because she's there, she can see him going to work every day. She like says something out the window and like so to get his attention, you know.
Yeah.
It's like small little things like that, which is funny, or giving him like secretly like giving him vitamins in his water, like all these things. Another great scene is when he's like, I think he's like just eating lunch with like his other
Yeah.
cop friends, and like a cute girl's talking to him, and like she comes up to him and like gives the girl like the death stare, you know, like
Yeah, she like smells her hair.
yeah, like shoo, get away from my guy, you know.
Yeah.
That's really
Um,
funny.
something else that was yeah, that theory is kind of interesting because she talks to the girl that it was originally his girlfriend at the at the convenience store later, and then it's some like bad
Yes,
boy, and then he's like, "Oh
yes,
yeah, that
yes,
guy's
yes.
definitely more your type."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's possible that he did have a breakup, but when he's talking about that person, it's related to fate. But that again, that's a theory that's out there. It's not
Interesting.
for sure,
Hey,
but it would make a lot of sense.
hey, something else that's kind of funny is both the guys. So, and it's another theme of the movie, but both the guys are cops, and then they're both looking for love, and neither one of them notices all the illegal activity going on at the shop, and like with all the workers and stuff, or even with the girl. That was something I thought was really funny, right? Like they were just
Yeah,
so oblivious to everything happening.
yeah. Love is blinding, I guess.
Literally,
Love is
that's
blind.
that's
Season
clearly the message they're trying to say is like these
for
guys,
sure.
because they're only focused on love, are not focusing on like the shop owner and like all the like people doing all the like illegal things.
So, like another thing about this movie, it's just you're really in that kind of Hong Kong world. It does a really good job at kind of creating that ambience. And I will say something that was really surprising when I visited Hong Kong is that a lot of people, when they visit Japan, they have this like Blade Runner image of like cyberpunk. It's like it's going to be like that. But I felt way more like that when I was in Hong Kong,
Me too. Because
100%.
of the
And
neon lights, right? The neon
the neon
signs.
lights, the
Yeah.
high sky
The high
rises.
rise. Yeah.
You've never seen a skyline like Hong Kong. It's like the skyscrapers are. It's almost like you feel like there's billions of them. You know?
Yeah, you have to go to very specific parts of Japan to get the cyberpunk feeling. Like you have to go
Right.
to
Yeah.
like Dotonbori like in Osaka at night or something to get that feel. You know what I mean? To get the
For
like
sure.
neon glow
But
look.
you know,
'Cause
cyberpunk has like a an influence from like neo noir films or like noir movies. And I
okay.
find that like even in this film, like when they're at the diner and like just the some of the shots, like when you see like Coca-Cola or some of that imagery, you know, like that kind of pop imagery, it creates almost that vibe, just that alone, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I noticed that cup of Coca-Cola when he got the coffee, right?
When he gets the coffee or when he's at
Yeah.
the diner and he's just like eating and there's like the guy's like watching the Coke machine or you just see like Coke is advertised, you know?
Yeah, it pops.
It pops out. Yeah, exactly. And it's just it does a great job at showing you like how crowded things are and like how it can be very dangerous as well, you know? For example, that scene where she's like trying to find out like where where those guys went when they double crossed her and she just like immediately just picks up the guy's kid and like leaves out of like
Yeah, I
that was
forgot about that.
heartless. That
That
was
was
like
pretty
super
cool.
heartless, right?
But
Yeah.
I always when I saw this movie, I always have the feeling that it's crowded at almost every scene. You always feel like there's always people around, like closely,
I yeah, 100%. Yeah.
and
That's how you
that's
feel like when you go there. I'm telling you, it's like it's
yeah,
For
wild.
sure.
it's
When you cross the
like
streets
the
there, it's that's the vibe for sure.
yeah, but it always feels like there's a lot of people around you, and that's also how it felt like when I went to Hong Kong. And what's cool is that people are used to it there, and they they're used to having a closer personal space
Yeah,
and living within that space. And I think also it makes for people to be more sociable
for
because
sure.
you're kind of forced to interact and talk with people at a close distance. And
But
I think it just
yeah,
makes everyone kind of like more social.
to go off of what you just said, like I also feel it's also a way of showing the loneliness even more, you know, like when they're going through their heartbreak and their kind of like loneliness kind of time, because there's so many people, it emphasizes it even more because it's like there's so many
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
but yet you're sad, you know?
Yeah, like they're sitting down in the coffee shop or wherever, and like everyone's like laughing and
Right. Yeah.
talking and moving and stealing and doing all these kind of things.
It's a
And
whole
like, and they're
jungle.
like, I'm all alone.
Exactly. Exactly.
The only scene that I remember that there's not crowded, besides inside their apartments, was when the guy was jogging in the baseball
Right.
field or whatever.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the only scene that it wasn't super crowded.
Like he's alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
Do you
sure.
guys ever do that? Do you ever jog so that you get the water out of your body so that you don't cry as much?
No, I just eat expired pineapple. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one too,
Tend to.
actually.
you should more specifically ask, do you guys ever jog? Period. Because that would undercut the other answer. But anyway.
Okay, so yeah, that's Chungking Express. Like, if you haven't seen it, highly recommend. Very unique movie in that sense of the two stories. If you really like this movie, there's actually another movie called Fallen Angels, which is kind of like a sequel to this movie. So definitely check it out. That was released in '95, and it talks about more of the character in the first story with Takeshi Kaneshiro.
Cool.
Other than that, other films from Wong Kar-wai that I highly recommend are In the Mood for Love. You also have Days of Being Wild, obviously Ashes of Time, and 2046 as well. Those are all the Wong Kar-wai films. I'm happy that we covered this. We didn't have, I don't think we had any international directors besides obviously the anime movies that we covered.
Well, we didn't have too many art house type movies.
Or art house movies, yeah. So it's nice to have a little bit of a change. And yeah, this is a great film, I think, from all aspects. And it's not too long. It's just kind of like perfect in length, I think. What
Yeah,
are your
agreed.
closing thoughts, Aaron and Tony? Like Aaron?
Yeah, so I'm just really happy I got a chance to watch the movie. I had seen In the Mood for Love a really, really long time ago. Um, this movie's obviously it's a romance film, but obviously it's very different than that movie. But um, honestly, I'm really happy I got a chance to watch the movie. I really enjoyed it, and I don't think I would have watched the movie otherwise. So it's great, and that's that's what we're here for. So thank you for picking this movie. I was happy to watch it.
Cool. And what about you, Tony?
I think this is a great movie to watch. I was happy I saw it. Um, it has a sort of a lore, a magic element to it that I like, which is in the city at night, anything could happen. Anything and everything does happen in this movie, including circumstances, meetups, love, everything. So a crime. So yeah, it has this movie definitely has a lot of lore, and yeah, I enjoyed watching it.
Cool. So that's gonna be it for episode 9. Next episode is gonna be our last episode. I think we got something special lined up.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss an upcoming movie, or by that time will it be played? We'll see.
We'll see. We'll see.
Either a new or upcoming movie.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll discuss it, and then we'll have some closing thoughts about our season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's about it for us, guys. Aaron, you know what to say now.
Cue the music.
Cue the music. Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Peace.